In the weeks following Operation Sindoor, American President Donald Trump's statements trying to claim credit for India's decision to halt hostilities with Pakistan had earned him no fans here at home. But finally, from the United States comes a statement, a critical statement that is a major diplomatic win for India. The recognition of the TRF as a proxy of the Lashkar-e-Taiba and as the terror group responsible for the Pahalgam terror attack. I'm Barkha, you're with the Mojo story. On the program today, we'll decode the big moment in the Indo-US relationship, a moment where both countries are on exactly the same page without any crossed wires when it comes to the Pahalgam terror attack. The statement released by the United States just hours ago recognized the TRF, the resistance front, to be a proxy, a front for the Lashkar-e-Taiba, and also accepts India's position on the TRF being responsible for the terror attack in Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir that led to Operation Sindoor. This development is a big diplomatic moment for India, especially given the sort of crossed wires we have seen in the aftermath of Donald Trump's statements insisting that he had a role to play in the decision to halt military hostilities between India and Pakistan. India has firmly said that this is not the case and that India took the decision only when Pakistan's DGMO called us asking us to do so. There is enough empirical satellite evidence to show how India was able to successfully devastate air bases, air defenses of Pakistan, including satellite images show, hit the entry gates to a facility widely seen to be a nuclear storage facility of Pakistan. That said, how do we look at this development? Remember, Trump has been meeting with Asim Munir. Trump has been saying all kinds of crazy things. And finally, from the United States comes this important and cogent statement. Let me introduce our two very distinguished guests on the program today as we try and make sense of the ups and downs of living in the age of Trump. Ambassador Veena Sikri, senior diplomat, is with us. Namaskar and good to see you, ma'am. And also joining us is former General Officer Commanding of the 15th Corps, General Atta Hasnain. Always a pleasure, sir. Thank you very much to both of you. Ambassador Sikri, it's very interesting that the Prime Minister is actually in Bihar today. And, I'm going to play out his clip in just a moment after I get first comments from both of you. And he said that it was from Bihar that he had announced that there would be reprisal for what happened in Pahalgam. And it was from Bihar that he was today able to say how successful that operation was. Now, the operation was clearly successful in military terms. There was some anxiety about how large sections of the West were behaving, in particular Trump. How do you see the significance of this statement given those anxieties?
We must recognize that this has been a great diplomatic success for India. There is absolutely no doubt about it because, as you quite rightly say, there have been a huge number of ups and downs in the entire evolution of events and reactions and counter-reactions since April 22nd. And India has, throughout this time, kept a very calm, collected, and non-aggressive posture and has taken action, has spoken with deeds. And we have also declared the new normal. We have said that every act of terror will be considered an act of war and that we are fully within our rights to respond. So fully in keeping with that, the events of May 7th to 10th unfolded. And of course, there was also the lunch, as you referred to, the lunch with at the White House with Asim Munir. But we didn't overreact to that. We sent delegations. We sent delegations to about 30 countries headed by very eminent people from different parties, all the different parties and political parties and religious groups. I think this decision was a great success because the countries chosen were people who are either on the Security Council now or going to be on the Security Council, very important strategic partners for India, and countries who have a great stake and importance in this. At all times, our effort was to bring to the world's attention India's view on terrorism and India seeking collaboration and cooperation from the world countries on terrorism and saying there can be no double standard on terrorism.
But can I ask you, Trump has been doing two things. One, he's been trying to take credit, kind of confusing back channeling with front channeling and saying I had a role to play in this. Two, he's been linking it to trade, and the MEA has rebutted this. Prime Minister himself has picked up the phone and said to Trump that India will never accept mediation. How do you read this kind of confused signaling? Some might call it mixed messaging. Great diplomatic win today, but not exactly very pleasing statements in the run-up to this moment.
But in the run-up, as I said, there have been these ups and downs. I think that President Trump is known for his unpredictability, but if I can interpret what he said, one can see that maybe the American State Department and the president put pressure on the Pakistanis to seek the ceasefire. That could be the only way that I can look at it. There is no other involvement of any kind by the Americans, but certainly seeing the devastating destruction by India's retaliation on 9th and 10th morning and earlier on 7th of May, I think that it was very clear that there was no way that, this could. And I think that India accepting the ceasefire was also a very important moment. Otherwise, it could well have dragged out into a much longer and, a very difficult moment, which would have been very destructive for India's economic resilience and growth. And I think that putting all these two things together, the final statement today, recognizing the TRF, is in itself also very significant because, as we know, the Pakistanis have been saying, oh, who is this TRF? We don't know who they are, what they are, etc., kind of denying it. And in addition to recognizing that TRF is a proxy of the Lashkar-e-Taiba, the American statement also said that they have re-examined the Lashkar-e-Taiba's position and ruling and reasserted their role as a foreign terrorist organization. So this is a reiteration of an earlier stand, which is very, very important. It really strengthens India's counterterrorism fight and cooperation, not only with USA but with a number of other countries, because we know that once the USA has made this statement, we can expect a large number of other countries to fall in line. I think this is going to be a big boost to India's own campaign, very significantly and well mounted counterterrorism campaign across the world and in the United Nations. And we can see further successes, and we can see our efforts to bring these kind of terrorist attacks to an end, really seeing some light at the end of the tunnel.
General Hassain, if you remember, as Vikram Misri, the Foreign Secretary, announced that there was going to be a cessation in hostilities, there was a lot of debate. Should we have, should we not have, should we have gone on for a while longer, and so on. And at that time, you said that you totally agreed with the decision that had been taken because you did not want the Ukrainization of Operation Sindoor, that there was a limited aim to it. The aim had been more than achieved, right? But since then, you see pictures of now Field Marshal Asim Munir. He goes to have lunch with Trump, maybe connected to Iran, maybe not, we don't know. Pakistan boasts that it manages to get dropped the reference to the TRF in the UNSC press release. And now we have the Americans not just recognizing the TRF as a front of the Lashkar, a proxy of the Lashkar, but also as the group responsible for Pahalgam. I mean, this is a big blow to Pakistan's sort of claim that all is hunky-dory with the Americans.
Absolutely. Barkha, firstly, thank you for inviting me for your program. And yes, I stand by my original statement, which I made at that time too, that the Ukrainization of the situation at that time was never in our interest. We didn't want an elongated war. I think what we were doing very clearly was sending a message, and which we did very appropriately. And I think at the right time, we called it off. We called for it in the sense that we agreed to a ceasefire at that particular time. Militarily, we may have achieved what we did, but yes, we were a little anguished as a nation on the course of events which took place subsequently. And I may remind, I think, all our viewers and everyone that this is a classic case, an example of what is called gray zone warfare. You see, this is not the black and white things that we expect in conventional wars, 1971 or 1965. These are situations which are absolutely colored in gray, where the situation changes by the day and by the hour. One day it may be completely in your favor, and the next hour it is completely out of favor. Now, we lost out, maybe we perceived that we had lost out a lot politically and diplomatically in this period after the ceasefire. But definitely this news which has come in last night is a a breakthrough of sorts, a diplomatic achievement to a great extent. And I go back to the fact that it was the Lashkar-e-Taiba which first was banned. It was morphed into what was called the Jamaat-ud-Dawa. In 2014, it was banned again by the United States and also by the United Nations under Resolution 1267. Thereafter, the Lashkar tried all kinds of other stunts, in the sense that instead of morphing into another organization, they took it as they took this particular line of taking this out as a proxy, the terrorist, the resistance front as a proxy, and hoped that they would be able to achieve their ends without sort of drawing attention of the world. But we are glad that the United States has focused on this, taken our arguments. The very important aspect is that in the statement which has emanated here, they have taken the context of the Pahalgam incident too. Just designating it as a foreign terrorist organization may not have been sufficient. But the fact that this has been contextualized to Pahalgam is a very, very important development, because this is a clear indicator that the United States actually links, which has already linked this to the Lashkar-e-Taiba, to the Jamaat-ud-Dawa, links it finally back to the state of Pakistan. And this can be argued, this can be debated. But as I said, we are in difficult times, and this is typically gray zone where we should not expect a victory every moment. You will have setbacks, you will have achievements, but for the moment, I can definitely say we can definitely sit back with a fair amount of comfort that we have achieved something very great in the diplomatic domain.
Now, I have questions of both of you on what this recognition actually means in real terms, how Pakistan might react to it, what we should be bracing ourselves for in what General Hasnain calls the grey zone warfare and Ambassador Sikri calls the unpredictability of Donald Trump. But let's first play out the statement of the Prime Minister. It is not clear whether the Prime Minister was responding to the United States statement. He didn't make any mention of it, but it was interesting, the timing, because as I said, it was from Bihar that he announced that there would be a military reprisal, and it was from Bihar today that he referenced back to that promise, and this is what he said.
साथियों, ये नया भारत है. अब भारत मां भारती के दुश्मनों को सजा देने के लिए जमीन आसमान एक कर देता है. बिहार की इसी धरती से मैंने ऑपरेशन सिंदूर का संकल्प लिया था, और आज उसकी सफलता पूरी दुनिया देख रही है.
आज उसकी सफलता पूरी दुनिया देख रही है. I want to bring this to Ambassador Sikri. You know, before this statement came today from the United States, there was an argument made in certain quarters that India had militarily won but lost the narrative. There were great concerns expressed about the narrative, about the way Western media reported on it, focusing obsessively on whether jets were downed or not. Even after the CDS, Anil Chauhan spoke on it and so on. There was some anxiety about how Trump was behaving, certainly. If you were to look at this and try and understand the United States with all its contradictions, with the fact that a mini trade deal is there, but the big trade deal isn't, the fact that Trump is a volatile entity, battling his own battles right now in the Jeffrey Epstein case at home, how do you see the overall situation?
Well, I think the overall situation is good for India because we have remained consistent. We have not overreacted at any stage, but we've remained calm and confident and carried out the endeavor that Prime Minister Modi, the determination, the sankalp that he had taken in his earlier speech in Bihar, and he said he had fulfilled it today very correctly because, we, for example, on the tariffs, again, we have not overreacted. We've continued with the negotiations. They've been tough negotiations. They're continuing to be tough. We do not know what kind of an outcome will be there finally. We are hoping day to day to hear a result. But we've kept our consistency and we've said we are keeping India's best interest in mind and we'll not take it. The best a point that has emerged from our efforts over the last 2+ months is that there is unity within India on this Operation Sindoor. You saw that the leaders of the opposition parties who went on the party delegation, the statements they made, the Congress leader Salman Khurshid accepting the abrogation of Article 370, saying it was a very good and necessary step. The statements by Shashi Tharoor, in USA, and then in Colombia, he got the government to, reverse their initial position. We saw in Malaysia, Pakistan was begging Malaysian government to cancel all the meetings of the visiting delegation. So we saw how the build-up of India's counter-terrorism narrative has been done brick by brick. It has been hard work because in the beginning, people very often ignore these kind of terrorist incidents. And this is yet another one of them. And these two countries will go on, etc. They normalize it. They don't take it as anything very special. But India was able to bring that special effort. And now India is building a further campaign, despite whatever Asim Munir may do. We're well aware of his efforts. And we know that, from the day President Trump's election was announced, then, the Pakistan is supposed to have announced 13 lobbyists in and around Washington, D.C. from all, shades and hues, and they're working very hard to change the narrative. As we know very much what is happening, but we also know that India's consistency has won its supporters in Washington, D.C., in all the State Department and other areas, and India is pursuing it. We are not getting distracted by what Pakistan is doing. We're going ahead. And the national unity on this question has been very important for the world to see. They know otherwise the kind of differences that all the political parties maintain on the smallest issue. They raise something and make it seem something that it is not. All that is going on all the time, as is politics in any democratic country. But their consistency on these issues, on national unity, on sovereignty, and the determination to explain to the world India's position, this has been a great lesson. And now India is going ahead on the FATF and so on, getting Pakistan back into the grave, talking at all times about weapons sales and financing. These are the two critical issues that any terrorist organization needs.
I want to talk a little bit more, General Hasnain, and of course Ambassador Sikri, about what we might expect from Pakistan now. But I want to take us also back, because people forget this, to that moment when Pakistan effectively defended the TRF, today recognized as a foreign terror organization responsible for Pahalgam, and boasted in their parliament about how they had managed to, or they had lobbied to get the UNSC press statement to drop the reference to the TRF. So I'm just going to play out this little clip because it's very important, because today there are Pakistanis who are saying, oh, so what's the big deal? But, how does it matter? They have forgotten that they stood up in their own parliament and batted for the TRF and boasted that the TRF had been, the reference to the TRF had been dropped. Take a look.
उसमें ब्लेम डाला गया था द रेजिस्टेंस फोरम. ये वो फोरम है कि जब 2019 में इसको हड़प किया गया गैर कानूनी, जो कि हम नहीं मानते, वो बिल्कुल इलीगल है, तो उसके नतीजे में जम्मू एंड कश्मीर में एक फोरम बना जिसका नाम है द रेजिस्टेंस फोरम, और उस पे उसको कंडेम किया गया, उसको जिम्मेदार ठहराया गया उस प्रेस रिलीज में. तो मुझे आई, मैंने देखा, मैंने कहा ये एक्सेप्टेबल नहीं है. पहलगाम के साथ आपको लिखना पड़ेगा जम्मू एंड कश्मीर. मैंने कहा यहां हमें एविडेंस दिखाएं कि ये द रेजिस्टेंस फोरम ने, द TRF ने किया है, तो फिर हम इसको रहने देंगे, या उनकी ओनरशिप दिखा दें कि इन्होंने एक मीडिया में चला भी दिया कि उन्होंने ओन कर लिया, वो झूठा था. नहीं, ये नहीं है. तो उस पर करीबन हमारे 2.5 दिन लगे. वी रिफ्यूज टू बज इन. मुझे बड़े बड़े कैपिटल से कॉलें आई कि देखें इस वक्त, मैं कहा जी नथिंग डूइंग, ये नहीं हो सकता, पाकिस्तान विल नॉट एक्सेप्ट. वो कहते आप पे ब्लेम आएगा, प्रेस रिलीज नहीं हुई, इतना बड़ा वाकया हुआ, आपके जावर एक्सप्रेस भी ये आई थी, कंडेमनेशन की, टेररिस्ट एक्टिविटी को कंडेम किया गया था. मैंने कहा वी आर रेडी, बट प्लीज यू हैव टू पुट इन जम्मू एंड कश्मीर एंड हैव टू डिलीट दिस TRF. अल्लाह के फजल करम से जनाब चेयरमैन, पाकिस्तान के को ये मुबारक हो और आपको कि हमने वो दोनों चीज़ें अमेंड करके वो प्रेस रिलीज तो जारी हुई और पाकिस्तान के मौक़िफ़ को तस्लीम किया गया.
Now, General Hussain, I thought it was very important to remind everybody of this clip because Pakistan was basically backing the resistance forum as a sort of innocent, group of people. And when you juxtapose that with what has happened today, as both of you have said, not just the recognition of the TRF as a proxy for the Lashkar, but the context of Pahalgam, which is what he was trying to deny there. What he was trying to deny there was that ये तो एक कोई forum है जी, इसका क्या लेना देना पहलगाम से, हमने इसको delete करा दिया because Pakistan by rotation was the chair, had the chair position of the UNSC and therefore it had some say in it. Now, when you look at that statement and you were to look at the significance of today, how do you read it? But also another question. The Deputy Chief of Army, he made a very important address in which he said basically that China was giving Pakistan live inputs, right? And it was like Pakistan was like a borrowed knife. Now, when you see those two together and what's unfolding with America, but also our foreign minister having just been in China, something very interesting and calibrated is going on here. General Hussain?
As I said, Barkha, this is typically gray zone, as I said right at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
You cannot compartmentalize any part of this. Obviously, Pakistan was very, very premature. The foreign minister was very premature in his commitment at that particular time, taking advantage and trying to exploit their situation for the reason that they had the slight control of the UNSC as temporary members and a potential chairman at that particular time. They managed to take advantage of it to an extent, and they jumped at it, not realizing that this is going to come back and sting them the way it is going to do it now, right?
Yeah.
No, I somehow put myself into the shoes of the Pakistanis and wonder if I had said that the TRF is definitely an organization which is a doubtful organization and it should be investigated or something like that, nothing would have really happened. Nothing would have gone away from them. And the world would have looked upon them with a little greater respect. The fact that they were denying it completely, this is just like almost like 26/11. When 26/11, you had all the evidence there, all the videotapes which were going on, and Pakistan was in total denial that we have nothing to do with them. You had all the recordings available at that particular time, but they were in denial. Now, this denial can go on up to a point, but not beyond that. And we can see this in this case. Quiet diplomacy, as Ambassador Veena Sikri just said, quiet diplomacy, and I will qualify that quiet diplomacy also by the fact, it's a very good thing that what happened was that this part, the South Asian subcontinent, receded in strategic importance, and the emergence of the Middle East for that little short period of about a month when Iran, Israel, and in the entire conflict was going on, allowed us to continue our quiet diplomacy, which I think was a very, very good thing, very effectively done by India, which managed to achieve this. But coming back to the question which General R.R. Singh had brought out, the Deputy Chief had brought out, there is no doubt about it, the fact that Pakistan and India and China, absolutely hand in glove, strategic partners, deeper than the seas, oceans, and higher than the skies. When it comes to military capability, yes, China will ensure that everything is done to enable Pakistan, right? Because something happening on the Western Front will obviously have a major effect on the Northern Front. May not be a tactical effect, but a long-term strategic effect. And I can explain this almost immediately by telling you that with what has happened in Sindoor, almost the complete attention came back to the Western Front after what had happened in 2020, April, May 2020, when the entire focus of the Indian Armed Forces went to the Northern Front. And at the same time, we've also got the problem of the third front, which is emerging towards Bangladesh. So with China there affecting these kind of things, any small action here and there, any tactical issue becomes strategic in the long term. And this is what they are attempting to do in this particular case, right?
Yeah. So I want to bring in Ambassador Veena Sikri and then give the last word to General Hasnain. 2.5 front, China hand in glove. But as General Hasnain says that it's grey zone warfare. So you also have the foreign minister, there in China. at it at the same time, or roughly in the same time frame in which General R.R. Singh is talking about China and Pakistan being hand in glove. And there's tension with Bangladesh. How do we make sense of all of this? There are some anxieties with Trump. There are clear tensions with Bangladesh. There are clear now anxieties with China. And there is this big win vis-a-vis Pakistan.
I think this is India's new diplomacy, because India is very willing to talk to all the individuals and state to them. For example, we know that on 7th of May, after we hit the terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan, we actually told the Pakistan side that, look, this is our response to April 22nd. We are willing to stop at this. So of course, Pakistan did not, and they started this, huge. So we were able to respond to that as well. Absolutely clearly. Similarly with China, we are going to mince no words in telling them what we think. China has been mounting a global campaign, as we know, trying to prove that their aircraft and their air defense systems are superior to what India has. We know this is not the truth. And what happened on 9th and 10th is very effective statement demolishing China's arguments on this subject. And India has clearly won the day on this one. And China may have got the, shall I say, because they are in touch with Wall Street Journal, they are in touch with control the New York Times and whatnot. So initially they were able to get the articles, but in the end, we know Indonesia, other countries, they're fully recognizing that India is the one which had the upper hand. The orders for BrahMos missiles, for this the Akash system, all that is coming in. So India's confidence is fully backed up. Even the Security Council statement, we know they said clearly that we have to find the perpetrators, we have to bring them to justice, and there can be no continuation of terrorism at all. So these is the statement by America recognizing that TRF as a foreign terrorist organization and as a global foreign terrorist. This has been a very great statement, a very great success, because we have brought that to closure, that the whole doubt about the TRF and its existence, and Pakistan, China thing, both of us want to do an inquiry on what happened, to see all this is there. So this is something very good. At the same time, India is continuing in a calm and collected way with its own economic growth, with the Make in India, with the defense systems upgrade. Absolutely no illusions about either China or Pakistan or even the dangers of Bangladesh stepping in. I don't think we have any illusions about that. Even as we continue our diplomatic messaging, and our foreign minister our prime minister, his long 5-nation tour that he had very recently, all this is a combination. You continue your work at home, and I think we're getting success on each and every front, and this is what is getting both Pakistan and China worried.
So, General Hussain, from a military perspective, what should we be bracing ourselves for? This moment has been repeatedly described as a halt and a pause and not an end, right? And knowing Pakistan and knowing that Pakistan is not a rational entity, my own sense would be that they are irrational enough to push the proxy aggression again, right? So I think that's something to think about, given especially the American statement today.
Thank you, Barkha. That's an excellent question. I'll make a couple of points related to that. Firstly, I think this particular diplomatic game is giving you excellent strategic leverage to be able to carry out your projection and outreach to a large number of other countries, big powers in particular. Perhaps at the G20, it's going to happen in another 2 months' time, G20 and places like that. It gives you good leverage, no doubt. Strategically, it's going to make it that much more difficult for the Lashkar-e-Taiba, the TRF, or whatever you will name they are under. It's going to make it difficult for them to network, to get to finance themselves easily, because remember, even when the FATF was pressurizing Pakistan, all these organizations were under tremendous stress. So that is something which hopefully will build up. A lot of people are expecting that the tactical outcome of this decision of the United States will start telling immediately by the fact that the TRF will pull back and not execute any operations. That is the furthest from the truth. It can happen. It tactically doesn't make a difference at all. All this will take very long to manifest, if at all it manifests. But it is all giving us a tremendous strategic and diplomatic leverage around the world. But in Kashmir, on the ground, I don't think this is going to make a major difference at the moment. So that brings us to your question. And your question is very clear. Is there a possibility of another attack coming about in the near
Yeah.
future.
Yeah.
In my mind, if you bear the irrationality factor in the Pakistani character, yes, this is something which can happen anytime in the near future. But if we apply a degree of rationality to them at all, I think this is a time when they will probably attempt to try and build bridges with the population, carry out their networking, bring in cyber, bring in greater radicalization, bring in outreach to the separatists. It is all than what is there in the non-kinetic domain that they will try and do 6 months or so, because that is one way of making sure that you are ready to launch once again. You see, prematurely launching into this kind of a situation, the Indian Army and the rest of the security forces will be able to get hold of it very, very quickly again, right? Therefore, if they're building up something strategically for the long term, I think they will be working on the non-kinetic domain for a fair period of time from now onwards. That is, I think, broadly the military assessment which is being done by almost everyone.
So a kind of regrouping,
Yes,
and a recharging, which gives India this time to assert the strategic leverage that this statement has provided us. Undoubtedly, a very, very significant moment where it isn't just the recognition of the TRF as a proxy for the Lashkar, but a recognition of the role of the TRF in the Pahalgam terror attack. That is the operative emphasis, given Pakistan's denials and given Pakistan's belief that that one lunch between Trump and Asim Munir may have changed everything. Well, I think this is a reality check for Pakistan. We leave it there. Ambassador Veena, Secretary General Hasnain, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Take care and see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.